Good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Got some people in here today. All right. All right. We may have some other people jump in, but we can go ahead and get started. So I haven't seen you guys in a couple weeks. I was in Los Angeles for a real estate convention, not last week, but the week before, which was really good. A lot of inspirational stuff. A lot of very talented people out there that are doing very good in industry. So that was really cool. Got to see Tom Ferry speak in person. Incredible. If you don't know who he is, Google him. He is amazing. Yeah. So last week, I just sent you guys a recording for the offer to purchase. Did everyone watch that? Gotcha. All right. Was it helpful? Good. So today we're going to go over working with buyers. But also, if you guys want, we can write up an offer together. I know we probably did that in the video that I sent you, but if you guys want to kind of do that in person so you can see it, that would be helpful. Let me know. We can pick a random house and do that. So just let me know if you guys think that would be good or not. And we'll get started. I'm gonna need you guys to talk today, okay? All right. Everyone sees my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, okay. Starting off good. All right. So working with buyers, getting your offers accepted. We'll start with our affirmation. I know my value and only work with realistic, qualified, and motivated buyers and sellers. Super, super, super important. There's a lot of times, as I'm sure Catherine knows from her past, there are times where you can work with people that are not qualified, not realistic, and not motivated. And that's what we call a time suck. And those people will take all your time and energy and distract you from getting new clients. So I think that's a great affirmation. At the same time, you guys don't want to be turning down clients. So if they're a potential buyer, whether it's now, 6 months, or a year from now, get to know them, put them in your pipeline, put them in your CRM, but make sure that you're spending your active time with people that are realistic, qualified, and motivated. Steps in the buyer process, buyer qualifications, the purchase agreement, which you guys went over last week, the market, and just tips to getting your offers accepted all around. Tony, you've had a few offers accepted, right?
Yes, I have. Sorry, I sound stuffy. This change of weather has got my congestion just all messed up.
Nah, I put my heated seats on this morning. Yeah. So I mean, I'm sure you've had some tips. I'm sure you've had offers you put in that didn't get accepted, right? And now that you're more experienced, you've had quite a few accepted. There's probably things that you do slightly different than when you first started. And we'll kind of talk about that kind of stuff today. Attracting buyers. And again, we talk about this a little bit every week, right? I mean, buyer leads are everywhere, but for the most part, you guys are open houses, your sphere of influence. I don't know if you guys follow Catherine on her Instagram, but she's been doing a great job of putting herself out there, right? Is it Flat Roger? Yeah,
Yes, my target market is people my age, like homeschool moms who know who Flat Roger is. So usually have a home. Hopefully they're going to upgrade or maybe buy an investment home or down. So a lot of the people think it's cute and funny.
Yeah, I think it's cute, funny, and you're just doing your regular normal stuff, but you also have what you're doing in the background, and it's good. I mean, it's I don't know what kind of traction you're getting already, but I think whatever you're doing, continue doing that a couple of times a week. I think it's phenomenal. So yeah, you're doing a great job, and hopefully everyone is since our last couple of meetings, I know Daniel did it. You've created that Facebook, that Instagram, and you guys there's Flat Roger right there. And you guys are posting on a regular basis, right? Super, super helpful, right? But obviously there's internet leads, there's farming, your circle of influence, which is where most of you guys are going to get your first deal or two. Open houses. I think next week or the week after we talk about holding an open house. I'm sure a couple of you probably haven't held open houses, but hopefully we can get all of you in an open house here in the next couple of weeks, and get you guys meeting with clients. That'll be exciting. I don't know if you guys can see this whole process, but it's a process. It's a journey, right? It is an absolute journey to get from just a qualified buyer all the way to the end. And the escrow part is it could be expanded another 10 on its own, right? So it's quite the process. So getting people that are pre-qualified, right? So it's going to involve you guys asking a lot of questions, right? Is now a good time, right? Are you able to? Are you in the middle of a lease, right? Did you just get divorced? Did you just have something happen to your credit? Did you just start a new job, right? These are all things that you need to know. Are you ready? Are you able? Are you willing, right? Are you actually motivated? Are you able to go through the process now, right? And these questions aren't to rule everyone out, because no one's it's never a perfect time to buy. It's never a perfect time to sell, right? So if you go through everything, you can find a reason not to work with everybody, in my opinion. But as a general rule of thumb, you want to make sure that these people are at least trending in the right direction, that if you hold their hand, you can guide them through the process. So I'm going to email everyone this as well. But this is one of our buyer questionnaire, right? This is just your basic information, name, phone number, address, your financing, right? Have you been pre-approved, right? If so, who's that person? Because I want to talk to them, right? If you haven't been pre-approved, that's the best time for you guys to look like the expert and say, hey, I've got a guy or I've got a gal, right? You guys should be doing that often, right? Because so many people are scared to say that they don't know if they can buy because they don't know if they can afford to buy a house. Say, look, don't even worry about it. I've got a girl. I'll send you her information. And then once they get it pre-approved, guess who they're going to use? You, right? It paints a bigger picture. So even brand new agents can say that, right? I mean, we meet with our different lenders almost every month. We were just with Amy on Friday. So we're always meeting with our lenders. If you haven't done it already, schedule one-on-one with one of our lenders or two of our lenders, right? They'll take you to lunch. They will not hesitate to take you to lunch. But get to know them. So anytime that you're speaking with somebody, say, hey, I'm going to start a group text with you or a group email with you, and get them involved. And then they're going to make your job so much easier. And then you look like such an expert, right? Right off the bat, even though you guys haven't, for the most part, done transactions. So get to know a lender. And then find out, do you currently own or do you currently rent? Daniel, why does that matter whether they own or rent, right? I don't care, they're buying either way, right?
I mean, if they're renting now, they probably know less about the process. Like a lot of the people I'm talking to now don't know much about what it takes to buy a house, whereas somebody's already in a house, they have a little bit more knowledge. You can kind of lead them. Maybe they have a little bit, you're not starting them from zero. Like the people I've talked to who are renting, like completely starting from zero, which is a good opportunity for me, but obviously a little bit more work to get them in that mind frame. At least that's what I've felt so far.
And
What else?
first-time
There's a couple other things. What else? That's good.
They're
That
in
is
a
a good one.
lease. They're in a lease. If they're renting,
Yeah.
they're in a lease. So that you need
Right.
to know.
Possibly have a house to sell and contingent.
There we go.
and
Bingo.
they're
Yeah.
first-time home buyers, different financing options.
Yeah. So those are all good things. I mean, just that one little question. I mean, four of you guys had great answers, and they're all right answers. They're all correct answers, right? They're going to need a lot more knowledge, right? And we have some of our top agents, and that's what they do. They just educate buyers, and people love that, right? So, Daniel, maybe that's your niche, right? Educating, buyers for the first time, right? Are they in a lease? Well, is your lease runs out in 2 months? Guess what? You need to be buying as of yesterday, right? Because it's a journey, right? We just saw this, right? This doesn't happen overnight. This path takes a hot minute, right? So what Tony mentioned is do you have a house to sell, right? There's so many times I see agents that work with a buyer and they're not the ones that sold their house, right? Good Lord. Like that's where you want to be. Like, I don't know the exact stats, but I think it's like at least 1 out of 5, 1 out of 4 people that are selling are buying that are also selling their house, right? Take advantage of that, right? Like if they're not selling, and some of you might have seen I posted on a little video on my Instagram this weekend, like you need to sell before you buy, right? It's a real thing. So find out early, like, hey, do you have a house? Like, no, I wanna wait till I find my dream house. That's not a good idea. You need to have your house on the market, because understand, and we're going to go through how to get your offers accepted. But one of the things is if you have a house to sell and it's not even on the market yet, who would accept your offer, right? Think about if you were selling your home and someone gave you a nice offer. So you're listing your house for 400,000, they offered you 400,000 and you had 2 offers and the other one had no contingency and yours had a contingency and your house wasn't even on the market yet. I'm not even gonna look at your offer, right? So it's a great opportunity to get both sides of their business, right? So don't be the agent that doesn't ask that. Getting them pre-approved. Guys, and you've shown a lot of buyers' houses. How many times are you going to show someone a house before you know if they're pre-approved? What's your thought process on that?
Probably 1 or 2 just to meet them, get them interested. Let's go see a house,
Yeah.
get to know them. And then as soon as we're talking in the car, whatever, we're going to do that.
Yeah, so I have no problem, and some agents won't show anyone a house until they're already pre-approved, and that's fine. That's what you want to do, but I don't mind at least getting to know them first, right? Building some of that rapport, which is my favorite word. I know you guys hear me say it a lot is rapport, and building that excitement and getting them excited about the buying process. And if they're not pre-approved, then getting them into that process. And again, you're the expert because you're putting them in front of somebody that you want them to work with. But at the same time, don't be showing someone a house for 3, 4, 5 weeks, showing them dozens of houses, and these people can't buy a box of Cracker Jacks, right? That happens. I guarantee it's happened to every tenured agent out there, right? We've all done it. So make sure that they can buy a house, and then also get them in the right price range. So if you've got somebody that's, like Daniel mentioned, a first time homeowner and they're renting and they're paying $1,800 a month in rent, and that's where they want to be on a mortgage, probably shouldn't be showing them $400,000 houses, right? Because now their expectation of, oh my God, this is the house I want, but maybe they're more in the 300 range, right? So try to find out what they can afford. And again, you guys aren't going to know that because rates change all the time. I don't know that. That's why I always have a lender in my pocket and say, hey, look, if this is their budget, assuming they have decent credit, where should they be, right? And that's going to help you guys kind of gauge where you should be showing these people houses. Meeting at your office, again, what's the beauty of Realty One Group is we have 3 offices here in Charlotte, and you guys have access to all 3 7 days a week, right? So don't ever hesitate to bring them into the office. It's a controlled environment, especially if you don't feel safe and you're meeting someone for the first time. Me personally, I always like to meet at their house or at a potential house that they want to buy, right? I want to meet them out in the field. But that's just me, because I want to meet them where we're going to be working. But if your comfort level is in the office, and you don't know them, and maybe they live in a sketchy area or something like that, then the office is definitely a good option. But always know that you have that in your back pocket to bring them into the office. Buyer consultation. I'm not going to read all these to you, but some of the stuff you want to have, working with the real estate agent is something that you guys want to have these people sign, on your first visit with these people, right? You guys should always be getting that signed. Eventually you guys are going to be asking for exclusive buyer agency agreement. And then hopefully once you guys show them enough houses, you're going to be putting in an offer to purchase, which we went over last week. Yeah, I'm going to send this one to you as well. So the pending path. We get them under contract. What's the first thing that we do once someone's under contract? You can see it on here, but that's not even
Sections.
necessarily the first thing. Tony,
Pay the due
if you're representing a buyer and you get them under contract today, what's your very first next step?
Bringing the due diligence money to the seller.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Actually, so yeah, that's it. So what's the next step? What would be a next good step? Anyone can answer this.
Schedule the
Opening escrow, right?
inspection.
Opening escrow, right? So once you've submitted your offer to the seller and they accept your offer and you guys both have a signed offer and you send it back to the agent, you've notified your client, hey, we're under contract, right? You got to let the attorney know, right? So you're going to send that signed offer to purchase to whatever attorney that you guys have chosen, right? Because who chooses the attorney? Buyer side or the seller side?
The buyer.
The buyer, yeah. And it's not like that in every state. Like, for example, Florida uses title companies and the seller chooses, right? North and South Carolina, the buyers choose the attorney. So, if your buyer doesn't have an attorney that they recommend or that they know or they've worked with, which a lot of them don't, right? Then recommend one. I use McMichael and Gray a lot because I think they're awesome and they work really quick. But say you have a house in Hickory and you don't know anyone, Google Hickory real estate attorney and choose that, right? But always ask if you need advice on who to use. But the first thing you want to do is you want to open that escrow. You want to send that to the attorney and say, hey, let's get to work, right? And then like Tony mentioned, the due diligence money needs to be taken, right? That needs to happen quickly. Then we're going into inspections, repairs, lender stuff, title issues, closing the transaction and moving in. And that sounded like easy, but it's a lot. Those steps are a lot. So the fun part of real estate is you guys are going to get really good and you guys are going to be able to find clients left and right, right? The interesting part is escrow is always a bag of nuts, right? So navigating the pending path is where you become a really good agent or you lose deals, and it can be stressful. It can keep you up at night, but just knowing how to navigate it and be on top of it will take you guys to another level. Being prepared, being organized, not missing your dates is super, super important, right? What I like to do is when I get someone under contract, what did I put on that contract? Besides the price, I put some dates, right? What date does it close, obviously, but also what date does due diligence end, right? So today is August or October 9th. Let's just say I put in an offer for today, which I'm hoping to do. Let's just say I put in August 18th for due diligence to end and October 29th for it to close. Well, guess what? October 9th is going to be here quick. I need to start scheduling all my inspections ASAP. Like the second we're under contract, I'm reaching out to an inspector and we're getting that stuff done. And what inspections might I do?
General
Let's hear from
inspection,
Miss
roof
Brittany today.
inspection,
Brittany, you want to talk up? You've been quiet. Let's go.
Any roof inspections, electrical, plumbing, anything that may have come up when y'all were looking at the property?
So yeah, so all that stuff is good. So typically all that's going to fall under your typical your home inspection, right? So your home inspector is going to look at most of all that stuff, right? What are some other things that might pop up?
Termite.
Termite, right? So pest is a
Radon.
big one.
radon,
Radon's a big one,
sewer.
right? Radon's a big one, right? Maybe you're out in the country and you need a septic well, right? So those are all different inspectors, right? Sometimes an inspector can do multiple things, but they oftentimes don't do all of them, right? So there's a lot of different things, right? So you want to be offering all that stuff to your client.
Hey, Brian, do you
You're
use a
under contract
checklist?
to buy someone's house. Who pays for the inspections?
The buyer.
Somebody new.
Oh,
Denise, who pays for the inspections?
the buyer does. The buyer. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear you now. Go ahead.
Yes, I was struggling with the microphone here for a minute, but that will be the buyer that pays for all the inspections.
That's right.
Okay.
Right. So I understand that going in, right? And this is kind of off the subject, but you know, when you're putting in an offer, you're going to have to put money down for the loan, right? So maybe they're putting 5% down on the loan, right? They're putting money down for due diligence and earnest money, right? Don't forget that these people have to pay for inspections, right? So if you've got these people say, hey, I've got $14,000 and I've got to put 10 of it down, we can put 3,000 down for due diligence, 1 for earnest, that's all 14,000. And then the day after they sign that paperwork, like, hey, Jason, we're going to have a $600 inspection and we're also going to need an appraisal, right? And that's going to be another $500, $600, $700, right? And they're going to be like, wait, what? So just know that the buyer pays for this stuff, right? And if they end up backing out, no one's reimbursing them for these fees, right? So yeah, so just some things to think about as you're going through this, you know, financially with these people. So you know, if money is a big thing, then make sure that they kind of understand that beginning. Hey guys, so I did hear your question. Do I have a checklist?
Yeah, so I found these on Amazon, which isn't exactly maybe what I'd use, but it was a start. You know, it has all kinds of different inspections and stuff. But do you have one you use that we could that you would share that we could go through? Because I don't want to miss anything that might be specific to North Carolina, or I don't know. You got a checklist?
Sure. There is a buyer's checklist, and I think I have it in one of the worksheets, so I'm going to email you guys.
Okay.
But there definitely is a buyer's worksheet, and there's a sheet that they will sign, and it shows all the different things that we use and who we used and who recommended it and how much they paid for it and who paid for it. So we do have a couple of different things for you guys. But a good thing to do is put all this stuff on your calendar, right? Due diligence ends, and put that on your Google Calendar, whatever calendar you use, on the 19th, right? And put it in bold and make sure it's an all day thing. So every time you look at your calendar, all right, I need to have my inspections done before then. And what else needs to be done before then?
Your loan needs to be approved.
You want your loan approved, but talking about like the inspection type stuff. What else needs to be done before that due diligence period ends? You want to have the inspections done before then, but you also want
The appraisal finished.
You want the appraisal to be finished, yeah. And
But it's
the
also
lenders
repairs
typically going to schedule that, but you also want to have your repairs negotiated, right? You want that due diligence request negotiated back and forth, signed and accepted before that due diligence period ends, right? So once that due diligence period ends, your buyer's basically locked in, right? So again, back to my example, if October 19th is due diligence ends and I've got my inspection scheduled for October 18th, guess what? I'm probably not even gonna have the inspection report back by then, right? A lot of times these inspectors take 2-3 business days before they send you the report, right? And then you need to have a day or two to digest that 60-page inspection report. Then you've got to go over that with your buyer and say, hey, which of these 30 things is important to you that we want to ask the seller to fix? And then you've got to send it to the seller, the listing agent, right? And they're going to present it to their seller. And then they're going to say, I'll fix these 3 things, but not these. And then you got to present. So it's a process, right? The due diligence request is one of the trickier things that we work with as realtors, right? Is negotiating that. A lot of times I think getting the offer accepted is easier than getting the due diligence request approved, right? Tony, would you say that that's true? You had that experience?
I'm sorry. The pest control people's here. What was the question?
The due diligence request part. That's often one of the trickier parts of the process, right?
Oh yes.
For sure. You know, a lot of deals are lost, right? So it's all about how you present it to your client, and how you present it to the listing agent. If you got a 50-page inspection report and you're asking for all 60 things to be fixed, man, that seller is not going to be happy. But if there's 5 or 6 things that are major that need to be done, and you're just asking for the important things and you're relaying that to the listing agent, you're going to have a more likely chance of getting that done. So having that done before due diligence ends is paramount. So put those dates on your calendar and make sure that you have it done but before that period ends. And what if it doesn't? What if you can't get it done before that date, Daniel? If it's the 19th, and we haven't agreed on repairs, what would I do?
Can that date be pushed? Like, can't you ask to like delay that time? Or is that something else?
So an extension.
Extension.
Yeah.
Extension. That's right,
Yeah. So a due diligence extension, absolutely. That's a great thing to do, right? There's gonna be times where you get to the due diligence and it's just not working out and terminate, right? So those are some options. But you want to make sure if you're getting close to due diligence at all, it doesn't have to be the same day. Maybe you want to do it a couple days before. Like, hey, we're just not going to have this done by Friday. Let's push this to next Wednesday, right? Go in SkySlope, get out that extension, and have your client sign it, send it to the listing agent, right? To make sure you guys are on top of that stuff. But if you guys are waiting till the 20th and say, hey, like we want an extension, the seller's gonna be like, now you're past due diligence now, right? You're locked in. Yes, I see your hand raised, Kevin.
Okay, just two questions. So one, will the sellers typically give you more time because it's pretty much a seller's market, and they'll be like, well, we'll just keep your due diligence, too bad. Or two, do they fix many things? Because it's a seller's market and they can be like, you know what, we disclosed all that on the seller's disclosure. We're not doing anything about it. Are the sellers really fixing that much? Or does it depend on how well you negotiate or present it, or just in general? I know every
so just in general, because every situation is completely different. A lot of it's on you guys, right? A lot of it is how much rapport you're building with the other agent and the relationship that you have with them. So when you're asking them things, they're not caught off guard, and letting them know, like, hey, I got the inspection report back. I haven't gone through all of it. I do know that when we talked to the inspector that there's some electrical issues that have to be fixed for our loan to go through. I just want to give you a heads up. I'm going to work on just keeping them up to date on what's going on. As a listing agent, I appreciate that so much when a buyer's agent keeps me informed. And they might say, hey, look, we have to have an engineer go out there, and they can't go out till Thursday. I'm going to just go ahead and let you know we're probably going to have to ask for an extension, right? And I appreciate that, right? Like if you're keeping me in the loop, it's completely different than you telling me at 4 p.m. on the day of due diligence and say, hey, we want an extension, right? Because now I'm thinking, oh, they're trying to back out, right? So a lot of that is on you and how you guys are presenting it to the other agent. But there's definitely times when I just closed on one last week, and yeah, there was a couple of things that were wrong that had to be fixed. And as long as you're presenting it well to the other agent, minor things, that I don't recommend asking for. If the electrical outlet is loose, don't ask to get that repaired. Go in there with a screwdriver, tighten it up, right? But there are certain things that have to be fixed for loans to go through. Like a bank's not going to finance a house if the roof, the electrical, the plumbing, the foundation, right? There's issues with that kind of stuff. Those things have to be done. And just say, look, our loan's not going to get approved if there's water in the crawl space causing issues and there's mold, right? So yeah, a lot of it is on us and on how we're presenting it. If that answers your question at all.
Yeah, being on the seller side, recently, I just recently sold my house, and I was in similar situations, where like maybe an extension for a couple of days, is it's still worth it, because if we reject it, that means that we will have to start all over again with a new buyer. So if it's reasonable, right? I mean, a couple of days, extension, of course, yes, go ahead and get that extended, instead of starting all over.
Yeah, no, that's
somebody new that you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. It's better to dance with the one that right? I don't know if you guys have heard that saying. It's something like that. Yeah. I think it's maybe the devil, but I don't want to say devil. But it's dance with the one that you know. But she's exactly right. So she was just on the seller side, and if you think about it logically, like, yeah, you can not accept my due diligence request or my due diligence extension. Cool, go back on the market, right? You're keeping my $2,500 due diligence money, but guess what? Everybody knows that you were under contract and you're not. So guess what? Your next offer is probably not going to be as high, right? It's all about perception, right? Every single one of us can go in Zillow and see there was pending, back active, right? Buyers can see the same thing, right? So, and it's, the days on the market have added up now. Like, so it's at the end of the day, it's going to take another 2 weeks to get an offer, and then you're 30 days from the closing there, right? So it is quicker to close with the person that you have. But again, you just want to make sure that you're communicating and presenting all that stuff. Why would somebody want to work with you? Again, you want to let them know that you're going to help negotiate and give them the best price and the best terms. You're going to advocate for them, and your job is not only to get them the offer, but to get them to the closing table, right? And that's where a lot of agents lack, right? Is they get them approved, and then they don't hold their hand through the escrow process, which is the hardest part, and they don't communicate well, and that sucks for a buyer. That sucks for a seller too, right? If you're having to keep asking for updates and not getting anything, and you're going a week or two without speaking to your agent, it's frustrating, right? You're sitting at home and want to know what's going on with your house. So communication is key. Loyalty is a two-way street. Presenting the exclusive buyer agency agreement, right? Something that we should all be asking for, but pretty much anybody we're showing houses to, right? If you're showing someone a house, you want to get that agreement signed, right? That listen, that they're going to work with you. They're not out shopping, and they're not out, doing showings with 10 other agents, right? And it also gives, them exclusivity to you, right? Like, you're going to work hard for them, right? You're going to spend more time working directly with them. So you got to make it sound like there's a benefit to doing it for them as well, right? Like, hey, I'm going to give you my undivided attention, right? I've got 5 other people I'm showing houses to just like you, but once we sign this agreement, I'm on you, right? Like, I'm going to help you, and I'm going to get you the process. And people like to know that you're working for them, right? And this is just a nice little way to say it or present it. But again, after you've met with them a time or two, say, look, I'm gonna email you. My agreement says that we're gonna work together on this. And just email it to them, or bring it to you at a showing. I've done that a bunch. Have paperwork ready on your, either printed out or on your computer, and ready to sign when you're in the car, right? If you're having a good time and building rapport with them, they're not going to hesitate to sign that, right? But they're not going to sign it if you don't ask. And a lot of agents just don't do that, right? They're just showing people houses left and right, and they never get that buyer agency agreement. And man, they go to church on Sunday, and someone there is a realtor, and they go show them a house, and the next thing you know, that you call your client on that Monday and like, actually, I'm under contract. Like, what? Right? So make sure that you get that stuff signed. Set the expectation up front for showings. Make sure your people are on time. I just had a client, they would show up 30, 40 minutes late every time, and it was unbelievably frustrating. So I would literally tell them that the showing was at 2:30, even though I booked it for 3, because I knew they were going to show up, right? Have your people show up on time. No more than 6 houses per appointment per day. Obviously the less houses you can show it to them is more focused, but there's times where people want to see a bunch of stuff, and then you narrow it down. So that all kind of depends. One thing, it's not on here. Understand that everyone has a Ring camera or cameras in their house. I cannot stress to you guys enough. Always assume that you are being recorded, right? A lot of times you'll see cameras. There's a lot of times you don't see cameras. There's a lot of times these people are just sitting at their work or sitting wherever they are, watching every person that comes in their house and listening to their entire conversation, right? Especially at the front door, right? So when you're meeting clients at the front door, and they're like, oh, this house sucks, it's been on the market for 40 days, we're going to offer them a terrible offer, whatever it may be, like, just point to the camera, or let them know before you get up there. But also as agents, like, watch what you say, right? That stuff can be incriminating. So just always assume that you are being recorded.
I thought they couldn't record without your knowledge or something. Like, they could video, but they couldn't record. Is that a thing? Or am I thinking of something else? But they can record.
That may be a thing, but people record and people listen.
Okay.
I mean,
okay.
all. I mean, I go to some house. I went to the guy's house. What was it? Saturday, and he had a 70-inch TV with 12 cameras on it. he had recorded everywhere, and I didn't see a single camera outside. Right? I could have been like, "Oh, this appointment's gonna suck," and he would have heard me because he was watching me. He was watching me the whole way in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good to know. Thank you.
Just always assume. Call ahead. I like to call the agent. If it's a house I think my people are really interested in, I like to go ahead and call them and start building that rapport right away. Always knock before you go in. I can't tell you how many times my people forgot about an appointment and they're just sitting naked on the couch and someone's walking in. So knock, right? If you're about to show a house, just give a real loud courtesy knock just to be safe. You don't want to walk in on somebody. It happens. Lead the way initially. There's gonna be times where you guys know the house, you've been to the house first, you've got the lights turned on. But there's also gonna be times where, Daniel's showing 4 houses and they're riding along with them or following him. He's never been to these houses, right? So you guys, a lot of times you're seeing these houses same time they are, right? So you're giving the tour, but also, let them know, like, I actually haven't been here before. Make sure that you have the MLS sheet on your computer, like looking at it. So when they're asking questions, you're gonna know, right? If it's your property, you're gonna know the square footage and the year and all that stuff right on the top of your head. But if you're showing several houses, like, have that MLS sheet for every single appointment you're going to ready. Look at it as you're getting out of your car, so you know those kind of notes, right? Super important. Watch and listen, get their feedback, know what they like, right? You'll after you know a client for a while, you'll know that they're not gonna like this bathroom, or they can't do any stairs in the backyard because they're older, right? You're gonna know things that they like and don't like. Make sure that you have those notes and you're putting those notes in your CRM. So as you guys are working with hopefully 5 or 10 clients at a time, right? You can quickly pull up Stacy's profile. All right, Stacy only wants granite. She needs 2 bathrooms. She can't do any half bathrooms because she has an elderly grandma, right? Like, just have those notes so you guys know your clients. Leave your business card. Return the home as you found it. It is so easy to leave the back door unlocked. I've had to drive an hour back to Hickory because I did not lock the back door. And guess what? I was on camera. They're like, "Hey man, I hate to do this, but my seller just said that you didn't lock the back door, and he's got it on camera and it's just wide open." I'm like, "Yep, that's my bad. I had to drive all the way back." Make sure if the lights are already on when you get there, I normally leave them on, right? If the lights are off when I get there, I try to turn everything off, right? Sometimes people want the lights on at all times because they know they've got a bunch of showings. Make sure you lock the doors. Make sure you don't let cats out the front door. That has happened. I actually have a client right now that she has like 7 cats, and some are outside cats, some are inside cats. I'm like, just don't mess with the cats. So you're gonna have some interesting stuff, but try to leave the house as you find it. Things not to do: a company buyer in every room. I do that. I want to see the house too. Don't state the obvious. Don't disagree with them. If they genuinely don't like something, don't say, "Hey, no, this." You want to be on their side. Don't defend the property. Yeah.
Allison mentioned this. She was just like, some people are kind of like external processors. They just kind of talk as they go along, and that just might happen, so it's just kind of let them go and say, and just make notes. I mean, just think about, remember what they say, but you don't have to answer.
And you definitely want to get feedback from them. But a lot of times, especially if there's 2 of them, they'll talk to each other, right? And that's another reason, if you're on the listing side, you always want your client out of the house at least, right? If they can't leave for whatever reason, like, just get out of the house, go sit in your car. Because as buyers, you want to be able to talk about the things that you like and you don't like. And if there's someone else in the house, it is a very awkward and uncomfortable process, right? So as a listing agent, if you have a listing, get your people out of the house, right? I've had people that refuse to do it, and I get complaints about them being in the house every time, right? And you guys are going to do showings where, Ken's in his basement, don't want to leave, and it's just awkward, right? You're like tiptoeing around him, he's playing video games, you're trying to show the house, and it's just weird, right?
The first trial showing that I did it up in Beach Mountain, and there were renters there that neither the listing agent nor I knew about.
Oh, perfect. That's great. That's always fun. Renters will tell you everything, I've got a rental property in Statesville, and they'll come in like, hey, did you know that I can touch the neighbor through the wall? Like, what? That's how we found out there was a hole in the wall. Because the renter told them they weren't asked that, but they freely gave up that information. So renters are always fun. Spot buying signals. I mean, you know when people like certain things, right? And there's times where you guys, people are gonna want to continue seeing houses. Like, hey, look, we saw 3 houses this week. If those are the only 3 houses we could see, could you see yourself living in those? Right? Make them make a decision, right? Because you don't want to continue showing them houses forever, right? And sometimes the houses just aren't their fit. And some people are just gonna take 20, 30 houses. But there's also times where like people, if you lead them in the right direction, they will buy a house that you've shown them, right? So again, you don't want to push them into it, but you also want to understand that sometimes you have to make a decision, right? It is the seller's market still. Like, if you like that house that we saw on Tuesday, it's now Thursday, like, let's jump on it before it's gone, right? Are you ready to make an offer? Key areas of the offer, obviously the loan type, right? Are you gonna be doing inspections, repairs, property disclosures, environmental disclosures? For example, I just had one that closed that had 2 oil tanks in the ground, 2 of them, and both of them had to be dug up and taken away during the escrow process, right? So that was $3,600 that my seller had to pay. But the buyer wanted them gone, rightfully so, right? Nobody wants an old tank. Actually just had that happen the month before as well. The tank had to be removed. So yeah, there's things that are going to come up. And the one previously didn't even know they had a tank. It came up in inspection, and then we had to have someone else inspect it, and someone else come out there with their backhoe and dig it up. Price or terms, right? So especially in a seller's market, you might not get the price that you want, but you get the terms that you want. Or maybe you get the terms that you want, but not the pricing. Brittany, what do I mean by terms?
So the interest rate, trying to think what else.
Well, just on the offer, right?
Okay, so I'm trying to think.
Maybe timing, maybe how quick it closes or how long it can close, right? So
Okay.
those are some terms that maybe that if you, hey, listen, if this house is for 400 and you want to put a lower price in at 390, maybe they'll take that 390, but they want you to close earlier, right? Whereas maybe if you put in the full price of 400, they're more flexible with you closing a little bit longer, right? So there's just some of the things like you just gotta let your buyer know you're not going to always get everything, right? You're gonna have to be somewhat flexible, and you guys set that tone, right? If you're telling your buyer we're gonna get everything we want, or we're not gonna buy this house, cool. You're not gonna buy that house. You're probably not gonna buy the next 10 houses, and then they're gonna resent you and terminate you because they don't have a house, right? So you got to set their expectations kind of up front. So we have cover letters. You have to be very careful with this. This is a little bit older. We're not allowed to do love letters anymore, which became very popular for a hot minute. That kind of loves the house. They just had their first baby. Their mom's a firefighter. Well, all this stuff that and people were picking offers. It's an easy way to discriminate, right? And it's not. So we don't offer that, right? So don't put that in your offers. You don't want anything writing like that. You don't want people picking something that they can't just look just at the offer and understand, right? So you want to make sure that you're not putting yourself in a bad situation. So, but I do love this part of it. Here's an offer, and you breaking everything down, right? As a listing agent, when I get an offer that's the email, the body of the email has all this stuff, and then the offer and all that stuff attached to it. I love it, right? Because it's like, man, this person took the time to tell me everything that the offer has in it, and maybe some notes that I'm not going to see from the offer. I mean, if I'm in my car, I can see like, all right, we got an offer. This is what it is, without opening up the PDF. It is nice if you take the time. What's something else you should do right after you send the offer?
Text or call the listing agent. Let them know it's coming.
Absolutely. Funny thing about email, if you email somebody for the first time and you've got attachments to it, a lot of times it will go to their spam.
Text.
Right? I can't tell you how many times that's happened. Like I've sent an offer, somebody sent me an offer, like, hey Brian, I sent you an offer a week ago and you didn't respond, man. That's screwed up. Like, I didn't get an offer from you and it's in my spam, right? Because they never called me or texted me, asked me if I got it, right? So I always ask me, please respond once you get this, right? And a lot of times, usually the second I get an offer, receive thanks, I respond automatically so they know that I have it, right? And you guys should get in the habit of that as well, right? Even when they're sending you stuff, they send you a counter offer, receive things, right? Just to make sure that people know that you're getting stuff and receiving stuff. But on the listing side, always in the back of your head, just make sure that you're always responding right away. So you're acknowledging their offer, right? Communicating with the listing agent, and the better you are at talking to that listing agent, the smoother that transaction is going to be, right? And there's so many times, there's so many agents that they love that power struggle and they just want to beat their heads against the wall and fight that other agent. I can tell you, man, going through that process and being on the same page, right? You're not on the same side because you're representing the buyer, they're representing the seller, but being on the same page, it's so huge, right? Because there's gonna be times where you ask them for tough stuff. There's gonna be times where they ask you for tough stuff, right? But if you guys are being friendly, like, hey, we're gonna pop a bottle of champagne after we close, and like, we're on the same, same goal, same trajectory. It is very helpful for that to go smoothly, right? So, but there really shouldn't be a week that goes by that you're not calling, texting, or emailing that other agent about something, right? Even if you're past due diligence and close is 2 weeks away, like, check in, man. Just say, hey, I don't really have any updates for you. Just want you to know that the loan process is still going smooth on our end, right? Just call and give them an update, right? Even if it's not any big news, just in case when something does come up, they know that you've communicated with them that whole time. Those are kind of talking about, I guess I jumped the gun on this. You guys are gonna have difficult agents. It's just out there, right? At the end of the day, you want your client to buy the house, right? You got to put your ego aside sometimes, and some people are not going to talk to you respectfully. They're not going to email you or text you. I just had this situation. This lady was the nicest person over the phone ever, but her text messages came across so just so nasty, and I just had to bite my tongue and get through it. But yeah, there's gonna be times where you're gonna have difficult agents. Don't flip out on them. Make sure you're not cussing someone out. Again, you guys get in trouble with that, you will be in front of the commission in a heartbeat. But just know, if you ever have a situation where you have a really difficult agent, right, let your big know, talk to another agent, get a second opinion on stuff, and make sure that you're documenting it, right? So if you got an agent that's just being super rude, or sending you rude text or emails, document all that stuff, right? Put it in your CRM. Say, hey, this agent called me an MFer today because of this, and this. Just have it all documented, right? So if anything ever happens, you got all that stuff. Like, boop, here's what I got, right? So it's gonna happen. Let other people know that what's going on in your brokerage, and then document it.
Use IVEC up there? What's that mean? Use the IVEC method. What's that?
I have no idea. Maybe that might be on the next page.
IVEC at the bottom. What's that?
Yeah, no, I see it. I'm not sure what that is, to be honest.
Okay.
Handling difficult buyers. Listen, we're all gonna have difficult clients, and you'll be shocked. I'll have clients I've met with, and they absolutely love me. They're getting pictures of my family. They're asking about everything, blah, 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 on the buying and selling side. And then you get through the process and it comes to money and people turn on you, right? And it's just going to happen. It's just naturally going to happen. Like, wait, you're getting paid $14,000 commission. You didn't do this and this, and this. You're going to have that happen, right? On both sides of the transaction. But again, you're going to have difficult buyers that they don't understand things. They don't understand why all their terms couldn't get accepted. They don't understand why, if they cancel, that they don't get their due diligence money back, even though you've explained that 60 times to them. So again, you just have to be very patient with people and just know that this is a difficult process for them, right? Buying a house is one of the biggest things that people do in their life, right? So a lot of times they're taking stuff out on you because they have no one else to talk to. They have no one else to take out their real estate anger on besides you. So sometimes we just are a sounding board, and you just have to just take it with a grain of salt. I think that's how the saying goes. But sometimes you just kind of have to take stuff, but just understand that the best agents on the planet are getting buyers and sellers that yell at them for no reason. But again, it's just put yourself in their shoes. A seller's market is when there's inventory of 1 to 5 months. Balance market is around 6. Buyer's market is 7 to 12 months. Right now we still are in a seller's market. I think we have 2 to 3 months of inventory. That's going to kind of decide like how your offers are going to be, right? I mean, if it's a seller's market, you're not going to put in a crazy lower offer with no due diligence money, right? And ask for a bunch of stuff. But in a buyer's market, maybe you are able to put in lower stuff, and maybe say, hey, I want the whole house repainted and I want a new stove and refrigerator when it's buyer's market, right? So understanding what kind of market we're in is important. Right now we're still in a seller's market. There's very low inventory, right? So they kind of the ball's in their court, right? So know that and explain it to your clients when you're putting offers in, right? If they're asking for the world, guess what? The other offer that they receive is probably not asking for that, right? So if you're getting a lot of offers that aren't accepted, understand that maybe you're asking for too much for the current market. Presenting the offer, it's not always in person, right? You're not always going to present an offer in person. Most time you're not, but most time you're emailing that to the other agent and letting them know. And when you get a counter offer, right, you can present that an offer if it's easy to get in front of them. Usually I'm going to call them and get them on the phone before I just email them an offer, because I want to walk them through it before they see it. I do think that's the best way to do things is present the offer with all the facts I have, and then send it to them. Because if you just blindly send them an offer, a counter offer, and they don't understand it, and say you call and they can't answer their phone, now they're just festering on this offer. Oh, they're countering me 20,000, when you could have just talked to them and say, hey, this is why they're countering, because they feel this, and this, and then explain it to them. So I do like to talk to people before I just send them an offer, a counter offer. Copies to everyone. This is what I asked Tony when we first got started. So, as soon as you guys get an accepted offer, make sure that you're opening an escrow and sending that to, once that offer is signed, you're sending it to your client, you're sending it to the listing agent, they're sending it to their client, and then you're sending it to the attorney and opening escrow. Loan doc signs. The loan stuff is always fun. Man, when we do our financing week, we'll bring in a lender, and they will talk a lot more about the loan stuff. But make sure that you're talking to the lender often. You should be talking to the lender almost as often as you talk to the listing agent, right? Make sure that the loan is on track. And there's times where, man, the week before closing, they find, oh man, you had a credit card you didn't pay, or something else pops up, right? So make sure that you guys are constantly talking to that person and finding other ways to get to the closing table if things change, right? So make sure that that's happening. Again, the attorney will be emailing with you a lot as well, right? They're going to need your buyer's information sheet. They're going to have that. They're going to have the loan information. So you should be typically emailing with the attorney. You'll talk to some attorneys, but for the most time, I'm emailing attorneys back and forth, right? So you've got a lot on your plate, right? You're talking to the listing agent, you're talking to the lender, and you're talking to the attorney, right? So just make sure that you're keeping everyone in the loop, and you're talking to everyone and your buyer, right? So you should be talking to 4 people every single week when you're in escrow. So yeah, so closing does not happen, right? So you can have both parties sign and it not be officially closed yet, right? So it is not closed until it is recorded, right? So on closing day, if you've got closing, let's just say Denise has a closing tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, right? That will probably close and be recorded tomorrow, right? Because the buyer comes in at 9, the seller comes in at 9, the buyer comes in at 10. The funds have been wired, the attorney receives the funds, they can record it. So it's official, and then commissions and things are sent out. Guess what? If you guys have a closing at 4 p.m., it might not officially record. What does it mean if it doesn't officially record?
The buyers can't move in yet.
Yeah.
Well, unless it's in the
Right.
contract.
So
It's not
yeah. So
as a
there's
transfer.
times where if it hasn't officially recorded, that the seller's not going to give the keys up until it is officially recorded. Right. So even though both parties have signed and maybe money's been wired, until it's officially recorded, you might have a buyer that doesn't have keys to their house. Right. So knowing what time of day it's scheduled for is huge, right? Because I've seen this happen numerous times where the buyer shows up to closing in a U-Haul that they've rented for one day, and they don't get the keys and they are irate, right? So there's times where you have morning closings and things don't happen, the money doesn't get transferred in time, but just know this. But there's also a lot of times where a listing agent will say, hey, like once we both sign, like I'm good, it's fine. You can give them the keys at closing, right? But you also have a lot of times where the seller's like, they don't get the keys until it's officially recorded, right? So how would you know that? You guys have constant communication with the listing agent, right? It's all like everything that we've went over today is about communication, right? So the more you communicate with the lender, the more you communicate with the buyer, with the attorney, and with the listing agent, those things are going to make your jobs so much easier, right? But if you're constantly saying, hey, like I know we have a late closing, like they really want to go ahead and move in. Are you good if they, can you talk to your client? And just, if you're presenting that several days in advance, it's going to be a lot easier, right? So just know that in advance, that catches a lot of people. It normally won't happen to you twice, because once that happens to you once and you're getting chewed out because they're sitting in the parking lot with a U-Haul, you won't let it happen again. But if you're going to not let it happen at all, then you'd be in a good spot. Arrange for the keys, garage doors, and remotes. A lot of times, the seller's taking that to closing and leaving that with the attorney. There are times where the attorney does not want your keys. They don't want the key. They don't be responsible for that, right? So there's a lot of times that, maybe you're telling the listing agent, hey, after close, I've got my lockbox on the house still. We're gonna leave all the other keys and garage doors and the shed keys on the kitchen counter, right? Let me know what time your buyer is gonna go to the house, and I'll go pick up my lockbox and sign right afterwards, right? That's pretty normal, right? I do that a lot, right? So again, sometimes the attorney will do it. They'll hold it, and that's easy. Sometimes, they're going to use your lockbox and get access to the house that way. And then you'll come pick up your lockbox afterwards, or the listing agent will. So, but you should know that in advance, right? If you're finding out on closing day where the keys are, I mean, that's, what if your closing is in Gastonia and the house is in Matthews, right? Are you prepared to drive all the way to Matthews to get those keys because you didn't know this in advance, when you could have done this last night at the walkthrough, right? There's just so many things that you just got to think about in advance. Well, that's it. It is 10 o'clock sharp. We went all in today. I think I drank too much Red Bull this morning. Was this helpful for anyone? Did you guys have any other questions about it?
Yeah, I think it was helpful.
Good. Any questions while I got you on here?
I'm just going to call you and help me write my first offer. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And honestly, everyone's going to do that on your first offer. It's just one of those things, like, you guys can see the screen. You can, we can write up an offer. We don't have time to do it today, but we'll do it. We'll go to the MLS and you'll figure out, like, where's the disclosures? Where's the agent's information at? Where's the buyer's, who's the seller, how to find the seller's name, right? I can show you all that, but the first time that you do it, you're gonna be like, I need to get this offer over in the next 30 minutes. Call me, right? Call whoever your mentor is, like, get someone on the phone just to make sure that you guys aren't missing anything. You guys will do that on probably your first several offers and several listings. So, but yeah. Well, I hope everyone has a great week. You guys know you can call me, text me, email me 7 days a week. But if I don't hear from you before then, I will see you next Monday.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Later, guys.
Bye.